I think focus on giving first. There's an emotional benefit, right? Let people experience the emotional benefit of that community. Then the product benefits and the sales and the revenue will come to you. I look at it as visibility, right? You got to be visible and give, credibility, and then comes profitability.
Hey everyone, I'm Joel Primack, host of the Community-Led Growth Show, and today I'm joined by Lloyed Lobo, co-founder and president of Boast.AI. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Lloyd.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Community is my jam, and I'm excited to dive all into community building.
Great. Well, we're going to start off with a softball question here. So would you please give all of our listeners a quick 30-second intro about yourself?
Definitely. I'm the co-founder of Boast.AI. We're a venture-backed company that helps businesses raise money from the government. So globally, there's hundreds of billions of dollars given in government funding, but there's a lot of red tape around it. It's a cumbersome manual process. It's prone to frustrating audits from the government, and it takes a long time to get the money, and Boast automates that process so companies can get more money faster for less time and risk to further their innovations.
That's amazing and literally world-changing. I love it. Thank you. So going in a little bit to a harder question here, what's the strategic value of going with a community-led growth go-to-market motion? I know that that's been a big part of your guys' journey. So we're just going to dive right into this.
Definitely. So I'll tell you, my career in startups is across 4 other failures as an entrepreneur, but then also as an executive. So I started my career in product-led growth, worked at a couple of venture-backed companies. Then we built a chatbot on Zendesk, which also failed. Then I was a part of an early founding team of a sales AI for sales tool called Speakeasy that was well-funded by Bessemer Salesforce. That also failed. And through that journey, I realized that customers are looking for an outcome. They don't want software. They don't want technology. They want an outcome. And your job is to get them that outcome by any means possible. And so I formulated this thesis that fall in love with your customer and make them successful beyond your product or service. If you build a community, you will not become a commodity. If you build a community, you will not become a commodity. So when we started Boast, we sell to founders, CEOs, we sell to innovators, right? And our goal is to enable innovators to become successful. Our mission at Boast, yes, we automate tax returns. What I tell everyone is fall in love with the customer and the problem, not the solution. And so our customers need money what do they need money for? To innovate, to scale their innovations, to innovate faster. And so our mission is enabling innovators to become successful and change the world. Every dollar spent in innovation returns more than 20 to the economy. From vaccines to robots to clean drinking water is a function of innovation. So when we started the company, we were 2 people. We bootstrapped Boast till about near 8 figures. And then we raised our Series A. So it's very hard to build a bootstrap company in an environment where you're competing with very large companies who are doing it manually, right? And so we started hosting events. We started hosting pizza nights every week, every other week, every month. And it would be like master classes. We'd invite speakers to speak on specific topics and then run like masterminds around it. And every time we do these pizza nights, more and more people would show up. And eventually we said, hey, it's getting too big, so let's do a conference. That conference today has evolved into a community of more than 100,000 subscribers. We host more than 100 events a year, including webinars, dinners in different cities, meetups, conferences, generates huge brand value and word of mouth. It's funded entirely through sponsorships run by volunteers, and we donate all the profits. And this community is called Traction. And every major CEO from Twilio to Intercom has been to our events. And so what is the value of community-led growth? To be honest, community has been everything for us, right? Everything from like feedback for product, marketing and sales, building brand, to recruiting. We raised our Series A last December. We had about 30 people. We're about 120 people right now. And we have 2 in-house recruiters that have done all the recruiting because we have this mini brand as a function of the community. Some of our biggest clients came from there. We met our investors through our community. So community can do a lot for you. I feel like community, say you're in an industry where a category doesn't exist. Like, for example, customer success wasn't really a category, and Gainsight came and captured that. Or inbound marketing and marketing automation wasn't a category, and HubSpot came and captured that. So when there is no product in an industry, community can help you create a category by bringing people together who share a common goal or mission. Taking an example from customer success, it's not a novel idea. Customer success really is proactive customer support. And their thesis was that customer support is so reactive. It's always reacting to problems. Customer support should be proactive, and let's call it customer success. But there wasn't a category, that, let alone software there. So they started building a community around customer success people and professionals, people who are interested in that concept. And there was a small group of people, and the Gainsight team created customersuccess.com, and they built the Pulse community. And it was all about educating people on how to provide better, more proactive customer service to your customers, all the data around it. Today, customer success is the fastest growing industry, and Gainsight pretty much has captured a category. Same example with HubSpot. There was, back in the day, in the mid-late 2000s, digital marketing wasn't a big thing. People were just talking about it, and HubSpot started coming out with all this content around inbound marketing, meetups around inbound marketing, certifications, content around training people to become better digital marketers. I'm an engineer, but everything I learned about marketing was from HubSpot. Then they came out and said, hey, you know what? We have a one-stop shop to make it easy, marketing automation software, HubSpot. HubSpot IPO'd at $1 billion. Today, they have a 35 billion market cap. So it helps you create a category when you don't have a product. But beyond that, it helps you build something bigger. It helps you build a movement. When more people attach to the same mission, it becomes a movement. Look at what Apple did, right? Look at what Nike did. Nike is a commodity. It's a shoe, but they celebrate athletes and athletics. And that's how people get attached to it. It's a community around athletes and athletics.
Oh, definitely. Hearing you speak even made me think of some other examples that have really captured their spaces so well, especially by building community and therefore building their brands, like Drift does with conversational marketing and sales technology for their chatbots at first, and now they've expanded over time. Similarly with Outreach.io in the sales engagement space. So thank you so much for sharing that. What are the different community models that you've seen during your time in the tech startup space? Do you have a preferred model? Is there one that you guys use at Boast that's been exceptionally helpful? Love to hear more about that.
Definitely. So, the CMX folks and Bevy, they created this model called Spaces, right? And I'm gonna take it one step above, which is S stands for support, where you organize members to improve customer satisfaction and save costs. P stands for product feedback and members around product. A stands for customer acquisition. C stands for contribution, where you're contributing through code and content and actions like a GitLab or a GitHub. E stands for engagement, which improves customer loyalty and engagement. And S stands for success, which connects customers to share best practices around product adoption and expansion. But there's a model above that, right? I feel like there's two kinds of communities you can create. One is a community of practice, and one is a community of product. The whole Spaces model falls under the community of product. But let's say you don't have a product. Then you create a community of practice. Like Gainsight, customer success. Before they built a community of product around the Gainsight customer success platform, they had a community of practice, which is bringing practitioners around the core principle and become better and better. HubSpot, before they had software, they built a community around inbound. It's a community of practice. Traction, our community, we didn't call it the Boast community, we call it Traction, because it's around enabling innovators to become successful. It's a community of practice. How do you grow customers? How do you scale your innovation? How do you raise funding? So it's a community of practice. So I feel like when you don't have a product or you have a very small brand, create a community of practice. Once you build that community of practice, just give. And I tell people who ask me all the time, if you don't have a DNA of giving, if you're not inspired by helping people and seeing them excited and becoming successful, and you're always looking for an ROI, don't go into community building. Just don't do it, because it takes years. In 2021, I'm getting asked to speak everywhere on community building. We've been building this community for years, even before Boast.AI as a software existed. We've been building this community for years. Nobody talked about it. All of a sudden, this is the era of community because Canva, built a $40 billion company based on community. Airbnb CEO changed his title to head of community. Peloton, all of the biggest successes have built community. But if you do something for the ROI of it, especially community building, people are going to see it as being contrived, right? And they're going to see it as being transactional. Focus on the passion, not the transaction. You got to be passionate about building community. Zig Ziglar has this great quote: if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want. That should be your philosophy, right? Fall in love with the customer, help them become successful beyond the product or service. I'll give you another example. Why look at Nike and Apple and HubSpot and Gainsight and all these successes, Stripe and whatnot. Harley Davidson, 1980s, they almost went bankrupt. They turned around the company based on community, right? They created a community of practice. What was that? Around the joys of writing. All of the people, their employees, started going out in the community and started creating writer clubs, writing around the joys of writing. They turned around the whole company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company right now. And then the product community came under it, because then the Harley clubs to fix your bikes, to modify it and all of that, right? So I think focus on giving first. There's an emotional benefit, right? Let people experience the emotional benefit of that community. Then the product benefits and the sales and the revenue will come to you. I look at it as visibility, right? You got to be visible and give. Credibility, and then comes profitability as the last stage. It's like dating, man. You don't go to a bar and ask somebody you see that you like to marry you. What do you optimize for? The number. Then what do you optimize for? The text. Then the phone call. Then the next date. And the next date. Relationships take a long time to build. And if you're looking for an immediate ROI, don't do it, because there's cheaper ways to get growth and drive revenue, right? You can cold call people. You can use your standard SDR playbook of social plus LinkedIn plus calling, email. You can run ads. You can hire a whole sales team. You can do partnerships. You do all kinds of things. If you are building community for the immediate ROI, don't do it. You need to be patient, and you genuinely need to have a DNA for giving and seeing other people succeed.
I would definitely agree with that. And I believe firmly that all of my guests would also agree with that, given everything that I've spoken with them so far about on this show. So thank you. From talking about the different models to now pivoting a little bit into sharing some examples of tactics to grow and nurture a community. How have you guys successfully done that? What does that actually look like in practice as a tactical thing?
Definitely. So before I dive into that, I want to talk about the 6 traits of a great community, right? I use this framework called Camper. And it's something I mishmashed across different things I found. And those are Camper stands for connection, autonomy, mastery, purpose, energy, and recognition, right? And building a community is much like building a company. These are the traits of a company as well. You got to treat your company like a community too, because your community is an extension. You can't have bad hygiene internally and great hygiene externally. It catches up to you. So I often feel that it should be like riding a Peloton bike, right? You hop on the bike, you have connection, you're connected to the people riding alongside you. You're autonomous, in charge of your own destiny. You have the opportunity for mastery, getting better of your craft, at your craft of riding. You have a great sense of purpose, which is better health, right? You're energized with all these people and everything that's going on. And you're recognized along the way. You're getting accomplishments and badges and rewards. So much like that. For us at Boast, for example, the purpose is not, we want to sell R&D tax credits. We want to automate R&D tax credits, make the burden easy. That's a given. Our big purpose is enabling innovators to change the world and become successful. Because if innovators change the world and become successful, the world will be a better place, right? In the last 15 years, more than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies have evaporated because they haven't innovated. But everything from vaccines to robots to clean drinking water is a function of innovation. So firstly, think about what are the key traits of a great community? How do you build connection? How do you have people that you can trust, like early champions, ambassadors, and give them a great purpose and they can run with autonomy? How do you ensure that your community feels that they're getting better and better and better at what they do? How do you drive energy in there? And how do you reward and recognize people? So now I'll break it down, right? I talked about the different kinds of communities, the community of product and the community of practice. And then within the community of product, there is the space model, which CMX, you can just search CMX space model and they tell you all about that spaces model within the community of product. The next thing is align people around great vision, mission, and values. People should feel excited to become the co-author of that massive impact. Like I said, with Boast, our mission is enabling innovators to change the world. The third thing is serve one audience exceptionally well, because that focus will give you clarity that will lift the conversion of everything. So a perfect example is like, figure out who you're serving, their titles, what are the outcomes they're looking for? How do they get to those outcomes today? And how can you deliver a delighted state, right? If you try to start a community and serve all kinds of people, you'll serve nobody, right? It's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep. So for example, when you look at your ideal customer profile, and I talk about this building community in the same way I would talk about building a product. You have an ideal customer profile. Who do they fund? So, okay, it's a CEO of a technology company, for argument's sake. Who do they fund? Meaning what tools and everything they pay for? Who do they follow? Who are the influencers, right? And then who do they frequent? What events and shows and blogs and magazines they read? Because once you map that circle of influence, then you can figure out the activities. So starting there is who do they, like, let's say you start your community around events or webinars. You can invite all the influencers to speak. That will attract more entrepreneurs to come because you have those influencers. Who do they fund? Meaning what other tools do they buy? Then you can go and partner with them and run like co-promotion campaigns to those webinars. And who do they follow? Blogs, magazines, etc. You can post content on there to drive. The third thing is setting aggressive goals. Last year, we had about 40,000 subscribers. Today, we have more than 115,000 subscribers. And I had Noah Kagan, who's the founder of AppSumo. He was on our webinar and he said, I challenge you to get to 100,000 subscribers. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do that by the end of the year. We didn't get to 100,000 by the end of the year. We had like close to 97. But what we started doing is how do we engineer backwards from that? So we started, rather than doing monthly webinars or whatever, we started doing 2 webinars a week. Now our lineup is full through next May. We started doing 2 webinars a week, recording it, posting on YouTube, promoting it to our database, and then we'd partner with other organizations to co-promote it. So when they'd run an e-blast to it, it would drive new subscribers to us. And that cycle started growing, right? And so taking that same concept further of nail it and then scale it, you can build a big community just focusing on one customer coming through one channel for one offering, right? Because if you try many things and you don't nail one, you're doomed. But if you do one thing really well, you can build a big business. And that's not only me saying it, but that's a quote from Peter Thiel, who's the co-founder of PayPal and one of the top VCs, right? So how do you start with one and go really, really deep? Like I said, you start with your buyer. Who do you fund? Who do you follow? Who do you frequent? When you start with your community, there's a multitude of things you can do. Events, Q&A space, job board, blog, communications, Slack group, ambassadors. Stop that, right? In my last company, Hiten Shah, the founder of Kissmetrics and popular tech influencer, was an advisor. He comes in and he says, show me your marketing plan. I showed him this marketing plan with 100 things. He sank in his chair and went blue in the face. And he says, burn your freaking slides down. You're going to fail. Just focus on one thing. And I said, he asked me, what's the one thing that works? And I said, email. But it's not generating enough. So I'm trying 100 things. He's like, no, just jam more and more and more data till you get to a critical mass, right? Other things are not going to help you. So the same thing with community. I get asked all the time, I say community. And the next question I ask is, should we start a Slack group? Should we start a Facebook group? And I'm like, no, the world doesn't need the 10,000 Slack group or Facebook group. Start with one thing. What is the white space you're trying to serve? Who is the customer? Who's the audience? What is the problem they have? What are the aspirations, goals? And what is that white space? And if it's events, just do events with cadence, lots and lots of events. If it's a podcast, do that. If it's a Slack, find one thing. If it is masterminds, organize masterminds, but do it regularly. You got to figure out one thing. For us at Boast, it was events. We started doing these pizza nights. It evolved into a conference. During the pandemic, it turned into 2 webinars a week. And now we have our large in-person events coming back up next year. But through that, we built massive engagement in a community of 110,000 people. But it started with events. And I particularly like event-driven communities. If you look at like organizations like Yelp or Canva, a lot of them started around with event-driven communities. The reason why I like event-driven communities is because we're right now two senses, right? Sight and sound, right? Sound, sight. Anytime you incorporate more than two senses, you can build genuine connections, right? Anytime you like shake hands, kiss babies, rub shoulders, drink together, eat together, that whole taste, touch, smell helps you build genuine connections. That's why I like starting with events, because you do events, you bring a good experience, whether it's food or drinks or good conversations or the combination thereof. That taste, touch, sound, smell, in addition to sight and sound helps, and you do it with a cadence, helps you build genuine connections. I fundamentally, truly believe that. And there's science behind it that you can research. So we started doing more and more and more events, more and more people started coming, and people were like, hey, I met my co-founder there. I met my investor at your event. I met a great hire. I learned XYZ. I met an advisor. So, I think doing things in the dark without an ideal customer profile, without a specific channel, without identifying the white space, without doing things in cadence is setting yourself up for failure. Right? Do one thing, do it really well, do it repeatedly over and over and over. Good things takes time.
Definitely would agree. And that was a lot to digest, but it is all great things. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I know a second ago you mentioned that you can't go into community building purely with the mission of driving ROI. But there is this but that community builders face of you have to measure the success of the community somehow. And so as a successful community that you guys have built of over 100,000 members, I'm really curious, how do you guys measure the success of your community? Are there both qualitative and quantitative parts of measuring success, or is it very scientific and mathematical? What's the secret sauce?
I think a lot of community builders face two problems, right? First, they need to measure the success of the community, which is actually, I think, easy to measure. But then they got to tie that success of that community to the company they're working for the product. How is it driving product ROI? How is it driving sales? And that is really hard because that's what derails a lot of communities, right? I think the first thing is every executive listening to this, it needs to be part of your DNA. Look at Dharmesh at HubSpot, the co-founder of HubSpot. He's one of the top community builders in tech. He built this massive community. You think if he cared for immediate ROI, they'd build a community? The company is worth $35 billion right now, right? Nick Mehta at Gainsight, I actually interviewed him on my podcast 2 days ago. And I've never seen him this excited. He, as a CEO, is head of community. He spends time in the community and builds relationships with people, help them get jobs, educates them. So you need top-down buy-in. And if you're starting a community from scratch, I would almost say if you're looking for direct sales ROI, like it's going to be more than a year, right? So like work backwards from a year and like stop putting targets on sales. What you should put targets though is how you're growing the community. So some of the standard things in community growth, it's much like checking your product, right? Focus on growth. How many people are engaging with the community? Focus on engagement and then the retention of those people. So if you're starting with just events, How many more people are you attracting every time? How engaged are they? Are they coming back over and over again? And are they bringing more people, right? Do you have that loop going? If you focus on those things, if you focus on money, you'll not build a big community. But if you focus on providing value and people believe they're getting value and they keep coming back and they keep bringing friends, the money will follow. So that's how I look at it. Growth of the community, engagement of the community, retention of the community, and how many more people are community members bringing. So if you have that thing going, then the business follows. And honestly, for us, it's hard for me to quantify on a one by one. Oh, we had 1,000 people come to this event. What percentage of them became sales? Hell no. What percentage of them, because of that community, do you get free sponsorships? You know, none of our team pays for conference tickets because we get free conference tickets. How cool is that? Most things we've not sponsored. We bootstrapped the company, man. We bartered on everything because, hey, we'll give you recognition at Traction. You give us recognition at your event. Our CMO was a direct email reply to an email I sent out to the community, right? Our CTO was recommended by somebody from the community. So it's your network, and your network is your net worth, right? It gets monetized eventually, but I think you got to focus on give 3 times, and then you ask, and you'll get it.
That's very fair, and I like that.
I'll give you another example. I got invited to speak on this as a function of the community I built. Now, people are going to see it. Some way indirectly is going to turn into leads. I got invited to speak at a big conference. I was a closing panelist there as a function of the community, right? And our sales team went there, and I'm sure they got leads. So that happens. But you know what? Sales doesn't always quantify it one-to-one, right? They'll be like, okay, I talked to this person at this conference and I closed it. But really, like, I was there. I hooked them up with free tickets. I spoke there. Why did I speak there? Function of the community. Right.
Yeah. And I would also just kind of add on to what you had just said and say that I think community is a perfect dotted line to revenue, not a solid direct line.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it better.
I'm stealing it from someone else. So thank you. But I would definitely, that's my giant point of view around success of communities. It's a dotted line. You can see it, you can feel it, you just can't always measure it, but it's there and it's definitely impactful.
I had this cool graphic, and maybe I'm gonna screen share this graphic. Let me find it first, okay? If you don't mind. Yeah. You see this?
Yep.
That is community. A big part of what's there at the bottom is the community, right?
Yep.
And the reason why I say that is because community is like your mom, right? Or your training wheels, or like they do stuff for you, but you win. You know, you're in school, right? And you're winning first prize and you ace the exams and you're doing all of this. But it takes a community to raise a child. Your community is your mom and your dad. That never gets the praise. They're just standing there and they're happy that you won. That is your community.
Yeah. No, I could not definitely put that any better. That was amazing. So thank you. We're coming up on time and a little past, actually, I see. So sorry to hold you up, but Lloyd, again, thank you so much for being on the Community-Led Growth Show today. If people want to follow or connect with you, what are the best channels or handles for them to use?
Just go on LinkedIn. I'm not active on anything else other than LinkedIn. My name is Lloyed, last name Lobo. There's an E in Lloyd. So search me on LinkedIn, add me. I accept all connections. I'm always here to help, support the community, share advice.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks so much. Love and peace.